Hello everybody, today I want to talk about Deathwatch, why they're bad, and what we could consider doing to fix them. Specifically Deathwatch, because that seems to be the one that most people want to play, but it's going to be relevant to Marines too. First things first, if you're a subscriber to my channel, I'd like to give you a big double hello. Wow, very wholesome. If you want more of that in your next video, like, subscribe, leave a comment right now, thank you. Deathwatch suck. And I can't overstate that. I don't have the actual numbers on me right now, but certainly when I ran the LGT, like the Grand Tournament Kill Team event, they were terrible. They were, I remember it, I think it was day 2, it might have been day 1, and in the 3rd round of a 4-round day, I think the bottom 8 players were all Deathwatch. No, hold on, that can't be true. No, so it was Deathwatch and a Reaver player, okay? Now, obviously, because you then had mirror matches of Marine against Marine, some of them then ended up still, like, doing better. But if it had only been a 3-round tournament, that would have been the end, like, it would have been really bad. For the D-dubs there, for the Marines, for the poster boys of Games Workshop. So we kind of need to have a little talk about this. You know, look, who knows? I'm sure maybe some kind of balance patch is going to come one day, but also they're the compendium, so maybe it won't. I don't know. I'm not thinking about what is GW going to do. I'm thinking about what would be a way of fixing them. And let's just get down to business with why are they bad first. Let's start there. So Deathwatch and Marines in general, but we're going to say Deathwatch, okay? Deathwatch kind of suck. And the reason they can't, because then we're not talking about scouts, because that's a whole other ballgame. So the reason Deathwatch kind of suck is because you've only got 5 models at 11 wounds each. Now, you do have some interesting tactics. Obviously there I'm referring to bolter discipline. You can also fight twice, but that is less relevant normally. And you do get access to interesting things, like, for example, equipment, I mean. But 5 bodies, 11 wounds. You don't get the Primaris 12. Okay, short glass. But you get to take lots of cool weapons. You get to customize them like you did in the last edition of Kill Team. So they're super cool, right? Cool, you could take a frag cannon or the heavy bolter or whatever. You could take the fighter with a shield. You could take the leader with a little xenophase stabby thing. You could take a plasma. Plasma, always good, obviously. Why aren't they winning? Why are they almost demonstrably one of the worst teams? But we do have a really good little contrast that we can make between 5 bodies at 3 APL and Custodes, who are 4 bodies, now at 3 APL. But Talons of the Emperor are still considered acceptable. They're not where they used to be. They're not completely OP broken, break the game. But they're not as bad as Marines. How is that possible? How do we have 5 bodies at 3 APL be worse than 4 bodies at 3 APL? Fair question. Because that obviously proves it's not just the body count. You can be good with 4 bodies. So, and we know obviously you can be broken with 4 bodies if you have broken rules, as the Custodes were. And it can't just be the APL, because again, Custodes have 3 APL. So it has to be equipment. No, obviously not. I bamboozled you, sorry. It's not equipment, because of course Custodes don't care about equipment. That was never part of their game plan. Okay, so it has to be the weapons, right? Because, so what do the Custodes have? They essentially have bolters that are good on a crit. Fine, cool. Well, actually, Deathwatch, of course, still get access to their Deathwatch rounds. And I'm not saying they're better, but when you factor in the fact that you can have 5 guys, all with bolters, in theory you could at least, give them bolter discipline, suddenly you have the specific round that you need for whoever you're shooting, and you've got 1 extra body. So why are you still worse? Let me tell you about something called FABD. This is something I came up with in a script my patrons have seen, but I never released the script because it wasn't very interesting or good. FABD, fabbed, is fight actions before death. This is a weird thing that we don't need to get into. Long story short, Custodes, with their 2-up save, is very important. It means they're quite difficult to kill at range, but also 18 wounds, again, quite difficult to kill at range. However, they are also very, very good at killing things. And the way fighting in this game works, it's so lethal. You cannot make an unconsidered charge in Kill Team. You will end up dying. A single hit from a big weapon might not kill you, but can put you in the range of a small arm then killing you next. Fighting is very dangerous. Marines only have 5 bodies at 11 wounds. A single hit from a standard 4 damage weapon take you down to 7. Suddenly you can be killed in a single action by another model. You are very fragile. Custodes have 18 wounds. They don't care. They will just, they'll just be like, oh, cool. Yeah, hit me again. Fine by me. So, due to the way lethality in close combat works, Custodes are exceptionally strong. Marines are not. This is a whole wounds threshold discussion, again, like Fabbed, we're not going to get into. Long story short, Deathwatch don't have what it takes to be a good team when faced against a competent player. Minor caveat, I'm not saying you will never win a game with Deathwatch. Of course you can. Just not consistently enough. You're looking for some dice spikes, you're looking for the enemy to fluff a lot, etc, etc. So, with that said, how can we fix them? Okay, so when you want to change the rules of a game, generally you want to think about what is the smallest possible change I can make to affect the issue. As just discussed, their issue is not enough health, really. Like, that's basically it. And then there are 2 ways to fix this. The most commonly thrown around idea is all Marines should get a 6th model. I agree. That is like the minimum change that could happen. But I still don't think that would, it would make them a much better team, but I still think they would be relatively low in the tier count. On those tier lists, they're still going bottom tier, really. Even with 6 models, I don't think you're really standing up to, the new Gene Stealer cult team. I don't think you suddenly have enough damage output to counteract your wound threshold issues. So, but then 7 models? That's a lot of models. It's only 1 less than Craftworld, and suddenly it's like, no, that's probably too much. I don't think they would actually be a top tier team, but I think they would be too strong in casual games, and you might end up with too many feel bad moments where, because of course a lot of new players play Marines because it's the most popular faction. So I'm just thinking 7 models is probably too much. So I propose that what they actually need is 6 models, so you do need that 6th model. And then they should also all gain 1 wound, essentially. So the Deathwatch, who are mini Marines, go from 5 models at 11 wounds to 6 models at 12 wounds. The Reavers go from 5 models at 12 wounds to 6 models at 13 wounds. And I think that would suddenly push them past the wound threshold issue they currently suffer from into being actually a much more formidable team than you might think, giving them 1 extra wound each. Again, Fabbed, it's not about the team cumulatively gets 6 extra wounds. It's about that each model individually goes over a threshold. That is the important part of Kill Team, especially when it comes to lethality, balance, etc. And I think if you made those changes to all of the Marines, you would suddenly be in, this is a viable team. It would bump it up to the next tier in the tier lists without making it completely oppressive to play against. I think that at 6 models plus 1 wound, so plus 1 model plus 1 wound, I think that they are actually going to be significantly better. And when I say better, I mean also better to play against than 7 models. I think that would be too much. 6 models, 1 wound, good. Now, drilling down just a little bit more into the Deathwatch, I would like to see the ability to give the sergeant, I think he's called a sergeant, the Deathwatch sergeant, any loadout. This is more a fluff thing. I don't know if it's necessarily needed for balance, but I think that would again increase their strength just a little tiny bit. However, we also have to face the next fact that if all Marines, okay, so far the only data we actually have is tournament data and what they're playing, and so far the majority of Marine players are Deathwatch players. Might be fluff, might be power, who knows, we can only speculate. But if you give all Marines +1 model, +1 wound, you haven't changed the relative internal balance within the Marine faction. You've just changed Marine players who chose to take Deathwatch before are still going to take Deathwatch. Now, I do believe that the majority of Marine players are taking Deathwatch for fun because they still have that roster building aspect. Yes, I'm about to do a video called Rosters Are Dead, here's why. It's an issue, but let's move on from that. So what could you do to the other teams to give them that little tasty extra, that little morsel that identifies them as different to the Deathwatch? I think you have some pretty clear examples. So within the equipment section, you get infiltrators, they have a Helix gauntlet, right? I think they should get that I think each team should get their trademark item for free. Like, I think that should just clearly be baked into a datasheet. So the intercessors, no, what are they called? Oh, actually, yeah, the intercessors, who are over here, they should get their auxiliary grenade launcher for free. Infiltrators, they should get their Helix gauntlet for free. The there are so many, what are they called? The incursors should get their little mine for free. Reavers should obviously get their grav shoots and their climbing hook things for free. I don't think these are big crazy statements. I think this is pretty obvious. So Deathwatch get their customizability baked in. Everything else gets a signature piece of equipment for free, on top of whatever else they can already take. If there isn't any signature equipment, then they just get a free frag or crack grenade, right? A free crack grenade, whatever. And that's pretty much it. So, guys, how would you feel about 6 models +1 wound for all Marines? Specifically for Deathwatch, because that's what we're talking about. Do you think it's too much? Do you think 7 models is the correct answer? I don't, but it took me a little bit of thinking to get to that reasoning. Now, obviously, if you've been watching me, you already know that actually I don't care about the compendium. I'm moving up to the other stuff. As far as I'm concerned, compendium's bleh, whatever. Final thought, guys, you know how much I hate painting. So I'd like to give a big thank you to Trevor Lang, links in the description, pinned comment, etc., for painting up a little Deathwatch force for me. My plan had been to use these in Kill Team, but actually they're all viable for Big 40k, which is exactly where I'm thinking about heading with Marines. And this has really helped me start my 40k army off. So anyway, thank you for watching to the end. What are your thoughts? Do you think there is another faction that is in need of more balancing than Marines? The obvious answer is Craftworld, but also we essentially just straight up know that Corsairs are coming very soon, and then from what we've heard in the rumours and the leaks, Corsairs sound like they're going to be way cooler to play than Craftworld. So is there even a point in touching Craftworld? Who knows? Anyway, if you made it to the end, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. That's wholesome. Okay guys, I hope you've had a good day and continue to have a good day. Goodbye.